Hey everybody, Avi Below from IsraelUnwired.com, and we are going to delve into this whole northern Syria, Turkey, Iran, U.S. President Donald Trump pulling out troops from northern Syria, the status of the Kurds. There is so much to unpack in this story, and I'll try to do it as simply as possible. But two very critical pieces of information. Piece of information number one, it's complicated. It is very complicated. Piece of information number two, because it's complicated, you cannot trust what the mainstream media pundits are telling us, because there is so much information in this that is about 1,300 years of history that virtually no reporter in the mass media is even interested in understanding, to understand the state of the Middle East today, that they don't even know the information that they're not telling us. All right? This is a whole mess of how we're being brainwashed about a situation. I mean, think about it. The main headline across media, across politicians, both sides of the aisle, is about how the U.S. is abandoning the Kurds. That's the point, all right? That is the talking point. Everyone's talking about how horrible it is that the United States is abandoning an ally. All right, so first of all, two things. Do you know how many genocides take place around the world that the world does not help? Number one. Two, do you know how many times minorities in the Middle East are stabbed in the back or not helped by the Western world? Whether it's the Kurds, whether it's Yazidis, whether it's the Christians who've been decimated in the Middle East. Decimated. Christians. Has the Western Christian world done anything to help Christians in the Middle East? In Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, in Egypt? Anything. Anything. Has the Western world, America, Europe, done anything? Have there been big campaigns? Have there been massive news items? Let's save the Christians of the Middle East. They're being decimated and killed and murdered and genocide. No. Utter hypocrisy. All of a sudden, the world's talking points is how President Trump removing, I think, 50 U.S. troops from a certain region in Syria. It's not all of Syria. It's just northern Syria. U.S. troops are remaining in eastern Syria and other areas. It's just this northern Syria. 50 U.S. troops are being removed. That's the number I heard. Maybe it's a little more. You're not talking about tens of thousands, right? All of a sudden, an abandonment of the Kurds. There is so much hypocrisy in that talking point that has to be unpacked. And I just touched upon the unpacking, because the Muslim world, the Sunnis and the Shiites, depending upon who's in control, they massacre and they persecute all of the other minorities. Yazidis, Kurds, Christians. And the Western world has done nothing about it for centuries. So right now, them screaming about Kurds being abandoned, can it be that these Kurds are in a bad spot right now? It could be. But you can't look at one point without looking at the whole spectrum of the historic line. And the historic line is that the Western world abandons the minorities of the Middle East. Year after year, minority after minority, the media is dead silent about the massacres and the genocides done by the Sunnis and the Shiites to all the other minorities. So you have to put things into perspective, and that's what the media is not giving us. Now, if we jump into the specifics about the Kurds, folks, most of us know nothing know nothing about the Kurds. First of all, I am someone who's been for years supporting the establishment of the state for the Kurdish people. They are a people. They are an ancient people with a history, with a culture, right? They deserve a state. They are 40 million people, as opposed to a fake, invented people over the past few decades called the Palestinians. The whole world demands for there to be a state for a fake, invented people called Palestinians. But there are actually 40 million Kurds that deserve a state that the Western powers, when they carved up the Middle East after World War I, basically left these Kurds stuck in all different made-up artificial states, separated, and to this day they are fighting because they are a minority in every country that they're in. Whether it's Iraq, whether it's in Syria, they are a minority fighting to defend themselves for their rights. Okay? So yes, the Western world has done an eternal wrong to the Kurds because they are a people that actually deserve a state. Okay, now we jump into today. What's with the Kurds today? So of those 40 million Kurds, and this is really high level, there are lots of subgroups. And the problem is that there is no unity. They fight within themselves. The problem is, one, not only has the Western world not helped the Kurds have their own state, but the Kurds themselves don't help themselves to have their own state. Just 2 years ago, I think it was, there were some Kurdish sects that established independence for a Kurdish state. Well, guess what? Who were the people who betrayed them and who helped their enemies take away any ability for them to actually have a Kurdish state? You guessed it, other Kurdish sects, right? Other Kurds allied with enemies of the sects of Kurds who did want to establish a state. So they are hurting themselves. They are not a unified people, and they betray themselves as they also betray other powers in the world, because these different sects, they have to survive. So they basically, now some sects are good, some sects, Kurdish sects, like Israel, some sects don't care about Israel. They're just looking to survive. One day they'll partner with Iran. One day they'll partner with Russia. One day they'll partner with America. It's who will partner with them and help give them arms so they can defend themselves. Sometimes they fight ISIS. It's all complicated. Okay, it's complicated. That is the bottom line. And that is what the media is not giving over to you. All right, so don't believe the media hype, and don't all of a sudden have your heart go out and believe that potentially President Trump's move was totally wrong because all of a sudden these Kurds have been abandoned. The Kurds have been abandoned by the Western world since the Western world after World War I abandoned them and threw them to the winds to suffer under Shiite Muslims and Sunni Muslims and be a persecuted people. Okay? So I have to put things in perspective and understand this situation is very complicated. Now I'm going to finalize this talk with the one simple point. And this is actually the unbelievable chess maneuver that President Trump just did, that again the media is not paying attention to. On the one hand, the fight against ISIS was very necessary. They were evil. They were evil, and they had to be gotten rid of. And finally, President Trump did something to help get rid of ISIS. But the other thing that happened is that a balance of power was destroyed between the Sunni and the Shiite world. Now, folks, the Sunnis and the Shiites have been fighting with each other for 1,300 years. Nothing Trump does today, nothing Russia does tomorrow, will stop them from continuing to hate each other and kill each other. They will continue to hate each other and kill each other. Do you know the only people the Sunnis and Shiites hate more and want to kill more than each other? That's right, us proud Jews living in our ancestral homeland Israel. To kill us, they partner. That's why you have Hamas, a Sunni organization that is supplied and armed and financed by the Shiite Iranian mullahs, right? And Hezbollah, which is a Shiite organization. So when it comes to fighting Israel, the Sunni and the Shiite come together. But the Sunnis and the Shiites hate each other and have been killing each other for 1,300 years. And nothing President Trump could do, or any other American president or any other American administration, will stop that hatred and killing. But what happened is when America, with the help of these Kurds in northern Syria, got rid of ISIS, well, the Sunnis in that area were weakened, and guess who filled the vacuum? Because whenever there is a vacuum, it gets filled by something. That's right, the Iranian Shiites filled that vacuum, and it's allowed Iran to grow to behemoth numbers and strength and power in the Middle East, to take over Iraq, to take over Syria. And you have to understand, in the balance of power between the Sunnis and the Shia are much smaller. The Sunni is a much bigger world. Most of the Arab Muslim Middle East is Sunni. The Shia is much smaller. But today, Iran is the major Muslim power in the Middle East. It is much more powerful in reality than it is supposed to be in numbers. So the balance of power between the Sunni and the Shia was destroyed, and it allowed the Shiites, Iran, to grow and become much too powerful. By President Trump pulling out these 50 U.S. troops from northern Syria, and Turkey, who is bad, all right? Erdogan is bad. He's a Muslim Brotherhood. He's horrible. He hates Israel. He's allowed Turkey to support Hamas. And there's plenty of horrible stuff Turkey's doing in Jerusalem to Islamize Jerusalem and to create and to infuse the Muslim Brotherhood in Jerusalem. All right? Erdogan and Turkey are bad guys. But what happened now is by President Trump pulling these 50 troops out of northern Syria and Turkey going into northern Syria, the Sunnis, now you have once again returning a balance of power between the Sunnis and the Shias in Syria, letting them fight it out with each other. Because remember I told you, it doesn't make a difference what we do, they're going to continue to fight and kill each other, no matter what the Western world or the United States or any administration tries to do. It's a 1,300-year-old hatred and conflict between the Sunnis and the Shias, and it's going to continue. And now it's basically putting the balance of power back, that they're going to be in conflict much more so the way they're supposed to be in northern Syria. And why is that good for Israel? Because this is now going to ensure that Iran, the Shiites, put more troops in northern Syria in order to fight with the Sunni of Turkey and the Syrian Sunnis that are going to return to Syria. If Iran has to put more troops in northern Syria in order to fight the Sunnis, guess where Iran has to take troops away from, or where they have to weaken their focus? That's right, on their southern border. Where's the southern border of Syria? Israel. Okay? So by Trump pulling out the 50 troops from northern Syria, yes, endangering some of the Kurds there, but again, I spoke about the whole Kurds in the beginning, and that's a whole mess, and it's very complicated. Israel is in a better spot because it allows Iran now to be focused once again on having to fight Sunnis and defend itself from the Sunnis, as opposed to be focused on how to attack and destroy Israel. So folks, that is the extremely complicated situation of what is going on in northern Syria with President Trump that the media is not telling you. This is something that I've been on top of. I've been thinking about, reading through reading through the headlines and the media, and also a very, very esteemed pundit of the Middle East, Israeli, by the name of Guy Bachor, gave an analysis basically giving all this information. And when I heard it from him, I felt good hearing that I was vindicated in what I was thinking all along. So please, please don't believe the media. Don't allow your hearts to all of a sudden think that because some sects of Kurds might not have the protection of 50 American soldiers like they did before, and their situation be a little more dangerous, that be what guides overall strategy for the Middle East. It is very, very complex, very complicated. But the bottom line that everyone has to internalize and understand is that the Sunnis and the Shia hate each other, and they kill each other. And the balance of power is, in a sense, being restored because Iran has grown to be a tremendous behemoth and a danger not just to Israel, but the whole Sunni Muslim Middle East, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, the Sunni minorities all over the place. All right, and they're going to continue fighting. Sunnis and Shias will continue fighting. All right, nothing we do is going to stop it. But at least for thinking about the balance of power of the Middle East is back, hopefully putting part of the Iranian genie back in the bottle so that this takes away some of the extra power that they've gotten on a hold over the whole Middle East, and also therefore makes it safer for Israel, because instead of Iran being the behemoth in the Middle East and not having to worry as much about the Sunnis and then totally focusing on how to destroy Israel, now once again they can't be totally focused on Israel. They have to be focused once again to defend themselves from who? From the Sunnis. All right? So this is a very, very complicated situation. I hope this helps. All questions, comments, please give them to me. And we have to keep on watching this. But my major point is, this is complicated, this is complex, and 99.9% of all the media reports out there and all the headlines that the politicians on both sides of the aisle are basically saying are not giving over the full context of what this is about. And yes, therefore, I support President Trump's move because of my whole analysis right now. And there's a much bigger strategy at play here than what the media is telling you. That's it. It's very late. I'm going to sleep. I believe this is important information, so please help me share this so other people can understand. And bottom line, yes, Israel is in a better place because now Iran is going to be more focused on having to fight Erdogan. Erdogan and Turkey is a bad guy. Let them fight each other. Let them kill each other. They're both bad guys. Better than both of them being focused on how to destroy Israel and the innocent Jews who are back in our home. And we are the best blessing for all people in the Middle East, for the Sunnis, for the Shiites, for the Yazidis, for the Christians. We actually help whoever needs help, and we do our best to help everyone. The Jewish people back in our homeland is a blessing for the whole Middle East, for those Muslims, because we don't hate them. We want to live in peace with our Muslims, even though they want to kill us, and we're a blessing to the whole of humanity. So that's it, folks. Laila Tov from the ancestral and eternal homeland of the Jewish people, the land of Israel, here in the beautiful Judean hills. Thanks for watching.